Hello and welcome back to the Masonic Roundtable, a weekly program where Masons from around the world get together to talk about Masonic news and opinions in a friendly and social manner. As a reminder, the thoughts and opinions expressed here are solely the opinions of the participants and do not represent any Grand Lodge statements or positions. Make sure you keep your conversations open for the public and on the level. To interact with us, you can send questions and comments to our Facebook stream. Good evening to all watching us on Facebook, or in the chat running alongside the YouTube video. So good evening to all of you watching live on YouTube. You can get us anywhere you are, and it's good to be here with you. My name is John Ruark. I'm a past master of the Patriot Lodge, number 1957 in Fairfax, Virginia. And spoiler alert, I might make it to Lodge this month. So it's been a while. It really has. Who else do we have tonight? We have Jason Richards. Good evening.
Hey, good evening, John. How's it going?
It's great.
Great. That's what I love to hear. My name's Jason Richards. I'm a past master of Vacation Lodge number 16 in Clifton, Virginia, and member of the Colonial Lodge number 1821 in Washington, D.C.
Well, good evening. And next up, we have Robert Johnson. Howdy, howdy.
Howdy, howdy. Hey, Robert Johnson, past master, Waukegan 78, current secretary of newly chartered. Spes Novum 1183. We got our charter. Woo!
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah,
Golf.
it's really awesome. And
Golf clap.
Everybody knows Gary Meisner from the chat. Gary Meisner is my chaplain for Lodge. So, yeah, Gary's new Lodge too.
Sweet. Congrats. Yeah. That's huge. That's why you weren't on the show last week, too.
That is why. Yeah, I was too busy being
Masoning.
Nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
Awesome. And last for tonight, Juan Sepulveda. Good evening, good evening.
Hello, everyone. Juan Sepulveda here from Orange Blossom Lodge number 80 in sunny Kissimmee, Florida, and the host of the Winding Stairs Freemasonry podcast. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, good evening. I think Mike the intern is stuck in traffic. That's his excuse, at least. So we'll miss him tonight. We'll catch him on the next episode. Want to give a huge shout out to the patrons, as usual, for being awesome and for helping us out. We got some new tech. If you like the view that you're getting of most of the hosts, we've been setting up some new light tech. If you don't like it, watch the audio version of the podcast. Where you don't get to see us.
Or become a patron and help us buy different tech.
buy a bag for Jason's head. That would be great. Put this.
My wife
bag.
tried that. It didn't work.
Happy anniversary, Jason.
Oh, thank you.
So tonight we're going to talk about what are we talking about? We're talking about festive boards. Now, we've done an episode on table lodges because those are ritualistic in the sense that some jurisdictions have specific ways in order to hold a table lodge. However, to the contrary, there are things called festive boards, which we'll learn about tonight, which have a food element to it, but may or may not be run in a completely different way. So the opening question to all of you is, can you recall a time that you've had a great festive board experience? Not a table lodge experience, a great festive board experience.
Yes.
And we're done. So thank you.
Good night. Great show.
Yes. That's a good one.
Perfect. Done.
Oh, so on the contrary, have you ever had a bad question mark festive board experience?
Does dinner before
Yes, sir.
Lodge count?
Cold green beans, all the
No.
jokes that we've gone through before. If you want to call that a festive board, then, but I would not call that a festive board.
The only thing festive about festive boards before Lodge is like insert fart joke in Lodge here.
Right.
That's the festive part.
Good thing we got that chili tonight.
Yeah. There was a line in the Past Bastard article today that was like, I can't even remember. It's in the first paragraph though. It's like we'd love to smell vaping products over the smell of like pre-digested chili or something. I died.
They never run out of good material.
Well,
How
I
about
mean,
you?
they were. I mean, they were running out of bad material for a minute.
How about you, Juan? What has your experience been like?
I have not been in an official festive board
Well,
per se.
okay then. So you have a unique experience for the rest of us. Good. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to Robert to kind of go over maybe a Venn diagram of a comparison and contrast to what a look at that. This guy came prepared to what the it's almost a Vesica Pisces of festive boards versus table
Yes.
lodges. So
That's some real sacred geometry right there.
compare and contrast. Go.
Yeah, sure. All right. Table Lodge, members only, usually no alcohol unless your Grand Lodge is too cool. It has a prescribed ritual usually. The charter is present. You actually open the lodge. You close the lodge. There's ceremony, so it's prescribed. On the contrary, a festive board, like Juan said, not officially. He's never been to one. So he's probably been to one. I mean, because festive boards are generally not prescribed. The charter is not present. It's more about like agape and fellowship. It's may or may not be scripted. It's open to anybody at all. Even women can go to festive boards, and they share similar elements. So toasts, meals, performance, if you will, right? So if it is scripted, there may be some performance work, like you might hear Brother Junior and Senior Wardens charge the cannons. So they're talking about the drink, and that may or may not be the same as in a table lodge where they say something similar. They have a toast usually. Both have toasts. Um, in a table lodge, usually the toasts are prescribed, so it's usually always the same stuff to the government, to the president of the United States, to the Grand Master, to the Grand Lodge, to the Grand Lodge
To George
officers, to the
Washington.
president, to George Washington,
Did you know he was a
to
Mason?
No, I had no
to
idea.
to all the brothers departed or wherever so dispersed. Like those are always the same things, and I hate to say it, but I've been to so many table lodges that I mean it is necessary to a point, right? There's always those instructions like on three, we hit the table. When I say charge your cannons, it means fill them up, and they all have different ones. But a festive board is a little bit looser, and there's probably going to be somebody who writes me and is angry about this. Maybe their Grand Lodge has a prescribed festive board, but traditionally, the Grand Lodge has no jurisdiction over a festive board whatsoever. It's literally a gathering of Masons at dinner. And if you decide to make a toast,
Dinner
you can make
after
a
the
toast.
lodge.
It's
Right.
after the lodge. The lodge is not open. So this is your time to party, which means if it's just Masons having dinner and they have their ladies or guests who are interested in Masonry come and there's toasts or whatever, um, there's no lodge opening and there's no ritual being spouted off. So this is your time to shine. I rather enjoy festive boards. We have them at the end of every single meeting of the new lodge. And when I said at the beginning, great festive boards and bad festive boards, I mean, we'll save that for later, but there's a story there.
So a
Wow.
couple years ago, I was visiting one of the observant lodges in DC, Lodge of the Nine Muses, and got the chance to go to a fantastic festive board after the meeting. So they actually brought in catering, and so we're all sitting around in tuxedos with a great dinner. And the thing that made that festive board so good was the conversation. So we actually had a couple brethren read papers in lodge. There was a good bit of education there. And we just sat around for an hour just talking about the papers that were read in lodge. And it was just really, really neat. I feel like there's only been one or two times ever at my mother lodge where we've gone to dinner or gone for beverages afterward and stayed an hour, 2 hours just talking about the Masonic education that was presented in lodge. The one time I can remember concretely doing that with Acacia was after Brother Dave Bacon came to speak on symbolic interpretation, and we were at the restaurant till like midnight just talking about symbols. And it was, to me, the festive board is great, food is great, fellowship is great, but getting to carry on that Masonic educational conversation outside of the lodge room is what does it for me.
Now, Juan, you've been to a table lodge before. Is that a true statement?
It is. As a matter of fact, I love saying that. Matter of fact, I just spoke at a table lodge 2 nights ago, and this was the first Florida table lodge that I attended. So it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fellowship. It was there were differences between this one and the one I had gone to previously, which was in New York. Um, the the main difference on this one, my grandmaster was present, so
No pressure.
that was
No
no
pressure at
pressure
all.
whatsoever. Yeah, so the grandmaster was in attendance along with his grand marshal and a few other uh, grand officers. So, but it was it was a lot of fun, and I had an opportunity to give a presentation in the presence of a lot of people that could take some of it and implement it. So it was very good to. I feel honored to be able to do that. But anyway, enough about me. The festive, the table lodge itself was the food was amazing. They had a brother there who is a very talented chef, put together the menu, and he had a lot of assistance from other groups, which is one thing. If anybody is contemplating organizing a table lodge, this is not a one man operation. This is something that uh, I would even say I would go on a limb and say this is not a one lodge operation. If you want to put together a really, really good table lodge, you should put together a few lodges locally to share on the burden itself. The one I went to in New York, the stewards were charging the cannons, so you didn't have any of the brothers at the table charging their own. And so that made it a much smoother flow when it came to going through all the different toasts. And but
Did that slow
there were
things down at all?
having people
Yeah,
serving.
like
No, the
it's like,
opposite.
oh,
It
we just gotta wait until this guy fills my drink up again.
no, and I don't know how the ones you've been on are, but in this table lodge that I'm referring to, they would have a toast, and then they would have a course, and then they'll have a presentation, and then they'll have the next toast. So there was plenty of time in between toasts throughout the night for the stewards to come through and charge, but they were very, very efficient. And you had to, of course, make your own selection of what you wanted, whether you wanted white powder or, am I saying that right?
Strong powder and weak powder, I believe.
Yeah, there were more options on this one.
I guess you could do a
You
white
guys, I was-
white wine, red wine, right?
Wait,
Is that where you're going with
RJ, are you preventing me from
I
doing
was
something wrong?
No, I was like zoned out listening to you, and then I heard you say white powder, and I was like, "Wait, what?
What
Yeah,
kind of
it's
table lodge have you gone
is
to?
this?"
This was it.
Oh,
Yeah, the best kind.
It-
It reminds me of a
It was over in a jiffy.
Yeah.
I was so fired
Yeah.
up about education after that.
Woo! Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like at an air. So at an airport I used to work at, they actually had decaf and caffeinated coffee, and it used to say jet fuel and low lead. So it's the same thing. Your strength. Pick your strength. But I don't know. Is there a thing? Right? Like if you say strong powder, do they just pour whiskey in your glass?
That is the first time I've heard those terms. That's amazing.
Wow.
So
we
technically,
had. Go ahead.
I was going to say in the instances where I've been at table lodges, strong powder has been wine, and weak powder has been something like grape juice or something non-alcoholic.
Okay. Well, here I don't know where my phone is, but when I get my phone, I know where my phone is. I'll tell you where my phone is in a bit. The options were beer, red wine, whiskey, but it was 7 mandatory toasts. So you needed to pace yourself or know your limits if you wanted to be a part of it. And I think weak powder was one of them. So I guess you could have gotten something else, but I was not interested in any of that. So, but we had a menu. So we actually they had the foresight of actually printing out the entire nomenclature expected to be used. And one fun twist that
That's
they did.
nice.
Yes, this was in Adonai Lodge up in Highlands, New York. And Brother John Pascolicchio, he did an amazing job in organizing it. So one thing he did, he laminated these cards that had on the side like is that called like a legend? Legend? You know, like what you have in the map that tells you what each symbol means.
Yes.
So it had that with all the different names that you should use for the different things. Like the spoon was called something. The fork was a I can't remember all of them now, but like a pitchfork or something like that. The of course your cannon is your shot glass. Yeah, you name it. There was a whole bunch of your sword is the knife, and part of the actual ceremony itself, they did a nice twist is that they wanted everybody to really use those words. They wanted nobody saying glass or wine or beer. They wanted everybody to use the specific word. So they handed out like funny money. So like you get like one bill of funny money per person. And if any of the stewards that were running about refilling shots and serving and whatever, if they heard you using one of the regular words, they would draw the attention of one of the officers and you were fined. So you had to actually make a donation to the charity. And if you cursed, also you had to put down a donation. But the first one, of course, it's a freebie. If you use the word fork and someone heard you, pointed you out, you put that funny money in. But the second one had to come from your wallet. So no pressure. You either learn your words or become very charitable tonight.
So the question is then, when whoever has the most funny money at the end of the night, do you guys get like a sweet prize or something? Like
Oh,
remitted dues?
all the funny money you'd get was one bill. That's it. And the rest went into a bucket for donations. This was from a couple days ago. We had a little memento to take home. Focus. There you go.
Nice. So, diverting completely away from the topic, where we were trying to talk about festive boards instead of table lodges. But great. I mean, I learned so much tonight.
Here's a real
this is worth it.
firing glass.
Oh, because it has Acacia's name on it?
No, actually, this is from the 2015 MRF symposium that you and I went to in Philadelphia.
Got one
So
right back
it's
there.
It's really interesting because a lot of folks use like shot glasses for firing glasses, and it's actually a special type of fat bottomed glass that you don't really see anywhere outside of perhaps the UK. I know they're very popular in UK festive boards, but they're very difficult to get in the US. I think Patrick Craddock is one of the only vendors I've ever seen in the US who actually carries uh, these kinds of firing glasses with the thick bottom.
Pretty cool.
Authentic.
Authentic. You can hear it.
Do some damage with it.
Question for tonight is recall one of your best, not table lodge, but festive board experience. And I'll start with one of the most greatest festive boards that I've been to that had the most decorum to it was over in Kentucky, where they had a lot of brethren there for a symposium, and they had rented out an entire, it was basically like an old estate, an old mansion, and they had the whole dining hall was lined, to the T, very decorative as far as, using nice silverware, nice glassware. They had, the whole like 5-course meal, and everything was, just everything was sharp and on point. And that really stood out to me, that they took the time and care to dot all the I's and cross all the T's. Before the festive board, they had libations, so it was kind of like they even had aperitifs, in addition to just some craft beer for people like myself. But it was there to spark the conversations, to be the social lubricant, as it were, to enjoy those conversations. And those conversations transitioned into the dining room, where they had server. So it wasn't just the stewards, for example. And this is a benefit of an open, non-tiled festive board versus a tiled table lodge. Is when it's a tiled table lodge, no one can come in and out. You're in a meeting, and you have to rely on the brethren to do the work of topping off the glasses and make sure everyone's fed and serve and bust the food. In a non-tiled festive board, you are now free of that obligation, and now you can have wait staff, you can have caterers, you can have all these other benefits, which enhances the experience without having to worry about the secrecy of the meeting. So so that enabled the brethren to again have a much more attentive wait staff, and it was just a great experience. They would bring out the courses, and then they'd actually, as Robert said earlier, spark some conversation about, hey, if why don't you talk to your brethren about this topic, and that allowed you to share intimately with the people to your right and left thoughts on the topic, without it being a one-way, I'm going to give an education topic and you're all just going to receive it and listen, and you not be part of the conversation. It's now an intimate setting. You're breaking bread together. It's really enhances the fraternal bond that you have when you can actually sit down and break bread together. And then after everyone was kind of done, like the main course, it then led into another presentation given by one of the brothers, which they were able to give while everyone was enjoying, like, say, dessert and coffee. So that is still, you can kind of think about it while you're stuffing your face, and kind of rounding out the night, easing into the evening, letting the alcohol wear off, letting the food settle. It just, again, everything was so crisp and smooth with the transitions, and full of decorum, up, down, left, and right. It was really just a fantastic experience, and one that is worthy of emulation. Has anyone had any experiences like that?
Yeah, I think actually the largest festive board that I've ever attended Smallest being with my personal lodge, right? So anywhere between 10 and 20 dudes. But the largest was probably about 150 to 200 people, and included many of the Masons, their ladies, and lady Freemasons who were in attendance of the Southern Pasadena Masonic Lodge's most recent MasonicCon. The festive board was on the Friday night, similar to what we'll do in 2020, but it was put together in such a way that was insanely successful. Servers, just like you had said, that we didn't have the cumbersome time of a poorly prepared meal being, call up a table and let them go slop their own food on a plate, all that stuff, right? Fully served. It was like 9 courses, so 9 small, nice little things throughout the night. By the end of the night, we were all full. Um, the wine was going. It was good time. And what they did that was really pretty amazing that I actually hadn't seen before was they did a series of toasts to Masonic pop culture icons. So they would play a little clip, and then they would give a toast, and um, there'd be a song after every one. So like a 30-second clip of a song would play. Everybody in the whole joint had to break out in the song, bringing back the singing to the festive board and that kind of thing. And so huge props to Dago Rodriguez for planning. I think he had a great team, but he is kind of a mastermind. So that was probably the best put together festive board that I've ever been to. I really enjoyed the mixing of different peoples from all around the country that were there. Like I said, 150 people, I think, were inside that room, and it was just brilliant. The PA system was just like cranked to 11. So like if you like, super bass, it was awesome. um, they did a fantastic job, and it was not something that you could have done um, anywhere else before like that. It was truly unique, and took a lot of planning. It's what I'm going to. We're not going to be able to do that, that big of a scale. But like, man, when I think about what I want to do in the future, it's I look to that. I look to that. But also at my personal lodge, one of the things that we're doing is continuing the education talks at the at the festive board. So um, we'll ask additional questions, and we have a round robin kind of thing, and that's been really productive too. So whether you have these massive audiences and you need to captivate everybody and bring them in together for an experience, or maybe you have a smaller audience and it's more of like Q&A and talking and working through um, whatever the educational topic was. It's just it's been awesome.
You've had a similar thing in DC, Jason? Oh, Juan, you're going to chime in?
No, you can go ahead if you want.
No,
About
go
a
ahead,
kid.
Juan. I've already talked
Uh,
about my amazing festive board experience.
Yes.
I just wanted to mention about what RJ said there at the end, but I heard my beep and I kind of got distracted. I'm like, wait, what was that he said? The conversation on the table, that if just like with any other scenario, you put a lot of people together, and one of the staples of conversation is going to be small talk. It's going to be talking about the weather or traffic, or something that is entertaining. It's an easy, there's like a little barrier to entry when it comes to that conversation, but there's not a lot of substance to it. There's not a lot that you can take from it, unless the traffic talk saves you half an hour the next time you go out to work or something like that. But I like that whole extension of the conversation into the festive board, because if you just put people with a plate in front of them to talk, they'll talk about whatever is easiest and can come can come out. But here, if you prime them with a couple of different things, um, even if it's not something super profound, at least it's something that's somewhat guided. I think that you could get a lot of benefit from the time that you'll spend with your brothers on the table. I like that idea, and I'm gonna see if I can implement that even in a less formal kind of way. Just thinking about, uh, would you call the meal before the meeting a festive board? I've heard of brothers referring to the festive board as the meal that they have after the lodge, and usually outside of the United States.
What say you, Robert? I mean, it depends. I've seen the term overused as well, right? Well, they'll just say, "Oh, we'll have a festa board," every month before the stated, which really means it's whatever they could scrounge up. So, we in this show are talking about something completely different. We are talking about a deliberate experience, vice dinner.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
the reason I made the emphasis about outside of the United States, is twofold. First, have you seen that documentary Inside the Freemasons on Netflix? Um,
Yes.
they show a festive board after the meeting, and that kind of, that is what people have described to me. When they come visit, they'll say, we stay after, and then we do actually sing songs, and we either read some poetry, do some specific toasts, but that they do that at every meeting. So they may be referring to an official festive board. Some people, when they use that word.
So, Robert, transitioning now, I think I want to hear more about a bad experience that you may have had in the past. Of course, not calling anyone out, but
No, this a bad. So it
what
has to
happened?
do with. So typically, at the lodge, we will. Um, so we have dinner reservations, right? And those reservations start at 10 p.m. usually. Sometimes they're 10:30, and so that means we have to be done in lodge and heading over to the restaurant. So because of that, there's usually a prepared menu. The kitchen staff knows we're coming. They've dropped their prepared menus in the special room for us, and everything usually goes really well. Um, a good meeting, a good festive board usually consists of us talking about and asking questions and having intermittent toasts for different things. Um, based on the education for the evening. And it's usually no problem to just carry that conversation into the festive board. That's what makes it a festive board, right? It's a scheduled meeting, it's off premises, it's members of our lodge and guests. Sometimes our ladies have come, and specifically, like after one of our gentlemen became an entered apprentice. All of our ladies came, including his wife, and we had a really awesome festive board. And that festive board was more loose. We talked about just congratulations and welcome to the family kind of thing. The bad experience is um, is when we don't stick to uh, continuing the conversation. So sometimes things will get derailed and we won't be able to for whatever reason there'll be 15 different conversations going on about 15 different things, and we forget to do the toasts or whatever. And while that time is still like epic in terms of experience, right? Because most of us, this is the one meeting a month, this is the true one meeting a month that we want to go to. We'll blow off anything to go to our lodge meeting. Um, and
including
so
TMR.
that's right. Yeah.
I
Because
wasn't
it must
actually
be the
saying
meeting.
that ironically.
I know. But
But that's what masonry
what
should
made
be.
it so I feel bad, like I don't want to dictate what masonry should be, even though I do it all the time, because I do agree that Freemasonry can mean an abundance of things to other people, and it took me a long time to come to grips with that, being okay with that, just because I'm bullheaded, and uh, and I think for me, a bad experience at a festive board, um, my bad experience of a festive board is still 1,000 times better than the best AMD night that I've ever had. So,
Ooh, shots fired.
uh, it's just because what happens, right, is like they take the idea of the festive board, and it's more of a it's so much more loose. So the bad festive board is just when we kind of get derailed, and maybe we don't continue the conversation about the educational topic, but again, we still walk away with a fantastic evening with great conversations, and we're all closer because of it. So even the worst festive board is still awesome, is what I guess I'm saying.
That's true. I mean, because if nothing else, there's a deliberate intent to get together, right, and break bread. Even so, while we shoot for a high standard, even just the act of fraternal, breaking bread is better
Yeah,
than not doing it all.
this helps me uh connect with my brothers and their families and their guests, right? And it fosters genuine, like, familial love. And so when I see these guys, we break at like quarter to midnight and we're leaving dinner. Like it's never handshakes, you guys know, right? It's always hugs, right? And like, all right, man, well, hey, shoot me a text message when you get home. And some of us have an hour, 2 hour drives to get home.
Brothers don't
And
shake hands.
brothers
Brothers
gotta
gotta
hug. That's right.
hug.
Farley and Rob Lowe, classic Tommy boy. Yeah, I'm not gonna spray anybody with gasoline though. That's another famous
I'm a
scene in that movie.
maniac.
You got it. You eat paint chips as a kid?
Why?
Yeah. No, why? Yeah. How about you? You got anybody else? Bad experience?
For me, most all of the festive boards that I've been to have been really unique and really special. So I think I'm blessed in one sense because of that, and fortunate in one sense because of that.
Hashtag blessed.
Hashtag blessed. Yeah. I think for me, I've had so many good experiences with festive boards, partly because they just don't happen very often. Um, the vast majority of the dinners I go to are before lodge. It's a handful of brethren just chowing down, hanging out, not really talking about anything relevant to Freemasonry, Masonic education, or esoterics. And so those times where I'm able to actually go to an actual festive board are just another plane above lodge dinners for me. So I can't say I've had a bad experience or an experience that was less than amazing on a festive board.
I will chime in and say that also having been a steward for 2 years, back early in my Masonic days, even if you have a really bad experience, it might not be the steward's fault, right? Shout out to all my stewards out there who work hard to get the food prepared for sometimes an unknown number of people with juggling. It's hard enough. We're guys. It's hard enough to feed yourself. Now imagine feeding 30 people and having no experience doing that. That was me. And, I literally had to shadow around my senior steward when I was junior steward and learn how to go to Costco and buy X quantity of food for roughly 30 people, and how to spread food through, and how to. So, again,
See, at Acacia, we always had the Acacia special, which was Costco pizza.
the Acacia special, but you joke, but it's still consistent, right? You about knew how many pizzas to get. You knew the brothers liked it, and it works, right? So, again, if we're not saying anything bad about if we had a bad Festive Board experience, that it's not anyone's fault per se, but it is something to take into consideration. That they're stewards for the most part. They're there as a volunteer organization trying to do the right thing, and it's hard. It's very hard to plan that event. As Juan said earlier, to do it right, it's not the leadership of any one person per se that makes it successful. It's everybody involved. It's all the brothers who have a hand in getting everything prepared. So if we talk about a bad experience, it's not as Robert said, a bad experience is still better than staying at home watching Netflix.
Gary Meisner said something in the chat, and I have to totally agree with him. And he said what I was thinking, but I just, the word didn't come to me. It's not that it was bad, just disorganized. And that happens, right? Especially when we get to talking about things and whatever. And then he gave the other great answer, right? The only bad festive board is the one that didn't happen. I'm actually curious to hear brother Gary Neal in the chat had said that he was kind of meh on festive boards. I asked why. He said he's not sure yet. He just kind of is right now. And I can maybe see that. Like, if is there such thing as burnout in terms of the constant get-togethers? I could see that happening, especially if you're part of several different lodges that make this a staple part of the lodge's experience.
I could say I personally look on Festive Boards as unique experiences, and I remember each of them because they're not an every meeting experience. So because they're far and few between, that it makes them all the more special. So building on that, one question I had for all of you, transitioning to the recommendation part of the show, is but based on what we've heard, our experiences of both good table lodges and Festive Boards, what are some pro tips, starter tips? I know Paul Hooten even was asking in the chat as well. Where would I start? If I wanted to put together a really good Festive Board, what should I do to stand out? Jason.
Moderate the conversation, not tightly, but
stick to religion and politics.
Yes, absolutely. No, moderate from the standpoint of have someone there who can guide the discussion and throw out questions. So I'm not talking about constricting the conversation, but giving just little seeds and throwing those out there to help shape the conversation, because I really think the conversation is one of the most important parts of the Festive Board, even above the food, toast, and alcohol.
So what I'm hearing you say is facilitation. So that would be one strength.
Yes.
If you can find one of your brethren in your lodge who's really good at facilitation and keeping the conversation moving without limiting it, that is when you want to use that brother. Good point. Great point, Jason. Okay, Juan, what do you think? What would be a good pro tip for making a good table lodge or Festive Board experience?
Yeah, I would say don't wing it. Try, if you can find someone who's put one together and you can get as much information from them as possible when it comes to the preparation and execution of it. I've been to a few table lodges, and they're always enjoyable. They're better than not having one. So if you're struggling to think how to get it started, I would suggest going and connecting with someone who has done one before. And even if they did a great job, I'm sure they even have pointers on how to make it better. They can tell you some pitfalls, some mistakes, some time consuming things that they wish they would not have done. So, like I said earlier on, there are a lot of facets to it. And if you can get a lot of help, then that's a great idea. The one that I attended in New York was put together by well, it was supposed to be one lodge, and they mentioned it, I guess in their masters and wardens meetings, or somehow other lodges started to hear about it, and uh, they started to get inquiries saying, you know what, we've been thinking of putting one together, but we were a little hesitant, a little afraid of putting it together because we don't know how to go about doing it. Do you mind if we tag along and we help you and learn the process? So that's what ended up happening. There were about 6 or 7 different lodges that came together, and they all put some manpower. They all help promote it. They all help in finding, um, they had like a silent auction, and they had gifts and different things. So they had a lot of people putting their minds together to make sure that the experience went well. And by the looks of it, I could tell that the brother who was organizing it had his hands full. Like, it was a very, very uh difficult thing to manage, but it would have been impossible if it was just him. So he had a lot of people running around and making sure it was memorable, and it truly was. But there's always room for improvement. So, I think that's the first step. Go find someone who's done it and see if you can find partners to help you execute it.
That's great. Yeah, planning goes a long way. Right, don't wing it. One thing I'll add is that if you can, I wouldn't say spare no expense, but go big or go home. And I'm not talking about putting your lodge in debt. I'm not saying spend without care. I am saying that make it an experience, right? Make it a nice sit-down meal instead of McDonald's, right? That's the extreme example, but the whole point is you're there to create a good experience for the brothers. You want to create a comfortable experience. So if you have to pay, charge brothers, a little bit more than just the usual donation cup, now's the time to do it, right? That crunch the numbers to Juan's point. After you've done all your good planning, figure out, that per person it's going to have to cost at least this much to break even. That's the entry fee minimum, and you'll accept donations on top of that. Because if you don't set that threshold, it's you're going to have a substandard experience, or you're going to go into the hole for it. And guess what? You're not going to be able to too many more table lodges or festive boards after that if every time you do it you keep chipping away. I know from experience we did that with we had a couple experiences where we had a table lodge in particular. It was like the second year that the Patriot Lodge was chartered. We had about a dozen Scotsmen brothers from Scotland in the States, and we're like, we're gonna live large, we're gonna treat them nice, and we went a little bit into the hole. Not a lot, but it was like we had a great party, and then we had to kind of pay for it later, right? We had to cut back on some things a year or two later. Was it worth it? Probably, but it's not a thing you can do repeatedly. Robert?
Yeah, so I would say that generally speaking, the festive boards that we will have, because no lodge can give to the countenance of alcohol in the state of Illinois, we just make it real easy. Come to the restaurant where the festive board is being held, and they do individual checks. And everybody
easy.
just pays everybody pays their own. But you can't, it's so hard to do that with groups of like 30 or 40 people. So this is why it really does matter when you do your planning and your budgeting. It's one of the things that I'm actually struggling with right now. Right, I'm trying to plan a festive board next year, and trying to put the ticket prices together. This is difficult work because I want people to be able to come, and I also don't want to put them out tons of money. So good planning is always is appreciated. I would also stress here that in the beginning of this episode, I said um, that contrary to the Table Lodge, the festive board is not beholden to anybody. Now, if you may have a Grand Lodge who does have something that says, "Hey, we do have a procedure for festive boards," right? Because they've outlined both of them. And in those cases, I would stress that you make sure that you are following those guidelines. If you don't want to follow those guidelines and you want to do something looser, then call it a dinner. And it's just brothers going out to
There you
dinner
go.
with friends and family. And maybe you have a little something or a presentation, like a community award. Maybe you're going to give an award to a great alderman or something. Um, but just remember that, right? Because the last thing that we want to do is to drive division amongst any lodge and their grand lodge. That's just not uh, conducive to anything. Like, I might not agree with your Grand Lodge's position on this, but that's not the cross you want to die on. So,
Yeah, and if you have candles and skulls and swords, just call it a dinner, and you won't be breaking any Grand Lodge rules. That
hey,
just ignore the salt, sulfur, and mercury over there. It's totally unrelated.
Now
besides a
we've moved into the
rooster.
LARPing section of the program.
So just cover your bases. Do some CYA. We don't want anybody getting in trouble saying, "Oh, the TMR guys told me." No, remember the disclaimer at the beginning of the show.
Good stuff. All right. Now we're at the point in the show where we bring things back home to wrap it up. Let's start with Juan for shameless plugs, final thoughts, and anything else.
Well, I say a festive board or a table lodge is a great opportunity for you to do something different in your lodge. Think about the brothers who are coming in who perhaps feel that there's not a lot um, of Masonic education, for example, or there's not a lot of fellowship, or there's not a lot of involving the family. This is an opportunity to do that and have a memorable experience. I Like I mentioned before, it is a lot of work, but for what I've seen, it is definitely rewarding. The table lodges that I've been to have been highlights of my Masonic experience, and it's it can really make a difference in the experience of the brother, or if it's open to other people, it could be a good first impression to either a spouse or a friend. One of the table lodges that I went to was an invite a friend night. So for a lot of people there, this was their very first Masonic event that they got to experience firsthand, and I know for sure that this is something that they'll forever remember. So don't be afraid. I agree with John. Go big or go home. Do as much as you can. If you take a page out of the Masonic Roundtable 300 celebration, start small and get some feelers out there, and start growing the vision as you continue growing the support. Don't do it by yourself. Find some excellent people to help you materialize that vision, and then let us know how it went, because we'd definitely love to hear it. How do we hear from it? Find us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Leave a comment, and thank you so much for supporting this program. It means a lot to us. It gives us an opportunity to. I was looking down here all this time, but you're right there. Thank you for watching.
Awesome. All right. Next up, Robert.
Oh man. So I love the festive board. Somebody in the chat had asked, well, why is it disorganized? Why is it bad? Or why does that make it bad? And my only answer is, I'm trying to come up with counterpoints, right? Like I want to argue the opposite, even though it might not be completely what I believe. I needed to find a downside to the festive board, and being disorganized is the best I could do. I really do enjoy them. Um, so I just say have them, even if it's just a few brothers afterwards. Like you can go big home, right? But you also have to work with what you have. We've got 7 guys who routinely love to go out for a beer after a lodge meeting, and the lodge meeting tends to end at like 9 o'clock. Maybe you guys want to make a reservation for 9:30 and have like a program and select some meals and do some great toasts together. It doesn't have to be massive. In fact, the more intimate it is, the closer you become with your brothers and you know them and whatnot. So I just say go for it. Anything that allows you to spend time, meaningful time, and what we say being truly present, uh, really listening, really connecting, and hanging on every word somebody's telling you is important. Um, so, few things just down the list. Bill Hosler is recovering well. He's the guy behind the 50-year Mason. You guys probably know him. Very active on social media. He had to have some bypass surgery, so he is doing better and should be getting on the road to recovery very soon. So I know he appreciates everybody out there sending him messages. Um, I do also want to say that over the last couple weeks, we announced at Masonicon Chicago Jason Richards, our own Jason Richards, is going to be a featured speaker this year, or next year rather, in September. So, for no other reason, you should come out to see Jason because he does a great talk. I don't know what he's going to talk about yet, but we'll see. Next week or this Sunday, we're going to
Yes, you do,
have on
because you
W.
mandated a certain program.
Well, I did, but I know they don't need to know. Next this week on WCY, I'm going to have Steve Harrison on. We're talking about Ray V. Denslow, who's probably one of the most foundational Masons in the 20th century. So you don't want to miss that. And this Saturday, just in a couple days, I will be at the Colorado Masonic Symposium along with some huge hitting educational guys like Brother Kevin Townley. You guys might know him. Brother Adam Kendall, who is one of the editors at the Plumline Scottish Rite Research Society. Some big names out there, and I'm going to be the biggest joke in the world compared to those guys. So I'm excited to go though and hang out. And Brother Scott Duvall, a great friend, worship master of my lodge, will be there with me, and we'll be facilitating some really cool stuff on Masonic research with Adam Kendall. So I know that hits home with Jason Richards also
Cool.
being a research expert. So all that stuff. Thanks very much for watching this show and hanging out with us. And sorry I haven't been on as much lately. Lots of stuff.
You're a horrible person, but we'll let it slide.
I mean, I am.
Concur.
I am. But I'm the best you got right now.
The best comment of the night goes to Rob Jackson in the YouTube chat, who says we should have a casual smib in Hostler's honor for his speedy recovery. So a good casual smib. So mote it be.
Smib. So mote it be.
Yeah. Heal well, bro. Next up, who do we got? Anyone at all? Jason.
Really good show tonight. Really enjoyed talking about fellowship and spending time with brethren. Again, I haven't had any any experiences in Festive Boards that haven't been entirely amazing. So it's a great thing to do, and I hope that you all who are watching get an opportunity to see what they're about and at least experience them for yourself. Let's see, what have I got going on this Saturday? I am going to be the guest speaker at the Maryland Masonic Research Society. So I'm very excited about that, to spend some time with some folks talking about worldwide flood mythology. So it'll be pretty cool. And then I think that's just about going to wrap up my year as far as speaking is concerned. So I'm looking forward to taking it easy a little bit, spending some more time on the work Mason life balance and the 24-inch gauge, as it were. But I'll still be back on TMR every Thursday night. So thanks so much for spending time with us every Thursday night, or whenever you watch or listen to us. So looking forward to meeting a bunch of you in person, especially next year. I've got a lot of stuff going on next year and going a lot of different places. So it's going to be exciting to say hi to you folks, and just appreciate you all coming back and watching night after night. And I think my camera just died.
You look great. So let's switch over then to me for final thoughts. Did I get you one? I think I made sure I got you one. Okay, good.
Don't you love it when your camera dies?
There you go. Looking great, Jason.
Yeah, I'm back. Yes.
Nothing like a live show.
Yeah. Back to you, John.
Thanks, Jason. In sports,
you're welcome, John.
We have great show tonight. I love the divergent we went on talking about table lodges, because I'd never heard the white powder before. That took me down some deep dark roads, but it was a good conversation, all related to this whole concept of breaking bread together and having a good time. So yeah, take some of the tips and tricks that we've talked about, some of our best experiences, try to emulate that in your lodge, and really just bring this fraternity together. That's really what it's all about. I want to give a shout out to Brian White, who gave us a super chat. Good evening, Brian. As well as Gary Meisner, who Robert was talking about, who is the chaplain. Is that right, Robert? Chaplain of Space Novum. So love seeing you guys tonight, and love everyone else in the conversations, both on Facebook and YouTube. This has been great, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week for another great topic. Thank you very much for watching, and keep searching for more light. Have a good night.